But welcome everyone to Blend Like a Winemaker. This is something we talked about for quite a while, and we thought, what a great way to do it virtually. So for those of you that don't know Ashley is our winemaker, and Vicki and Mike Farrow are our proprietors, and I am Robert, the estate director. One thing that we love to do, and because somebody said that they were on the East Coast, we love for you to put in your name line where you're from. And Allison and Amber already knew that because they've been on virtual tastings with us before.
Yeah.
Because you never know who might be next door to you. Because Syrah and James are just outside of Chicago.
Well, kind of. Indiana. You know, to us, that's all kind of close.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's what they call flyover country, right?
Close enough. It's like how LA and San Francisco are close.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how Sonoma and Napa are close. Everybody always says, we're going to be in Napa. Can we come see you? I said, well, yeah, if you plan for some extra time.
How come they get to have their cat? Can I get torn up?
Sure, if you want.
So I think Ashley's going to take it from here, and if you don't have 3 glasses, why don't you make sure that you have them, and we're going to pour all 3 varietals, and then Ashley's going to talk about each one of them.
I think I need more than this then.
Right. So welcome, guys. If you don't have 3 glasses, that's okay. You can always use a dumping bucket. I know it's hard to dump, but I have my little coffee cup for spitting and dumping. You know, very professional here. So welcome to our Amista blending seminar. Today we're going to talk about one of our favorite blends, which is our GSM blend, Trace. So you guys all have the components in front of you. So the first thing, we're going to jump right into it. And if you do have your 3 glasses, I'd like you to pour Syrah, Grenache, and then Syrah, and then Mourvedre into each of the 3. And just make sure you remember which one's which. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with you guys right now. Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. So the first thing that we look for in blending, what do your components taste like? So obviously we want to make the very best wine out of these 3 components. And right now I know they're finished wines, but you know, in theory, this would be like barrel samples or tank samples from the winery. So they would be in an incomplete stage. So what do they taste like? What do you notice about them? And I would say the first thing that I'm noticing in my 3 glasses is the color and the clarity and the depth of color is very different from wine to wine. So if you look at them, if you're in a light-ish background or a light space, you can definitely see that there's some color difference. Now, does color mean like a ton? No, not particularly in the finished wine, but it's into tell you how big, bold, or how deep of flavor or tannin that wine is going to have. So we just first take a note of the color. And right now you're just sort of comparing one glass to the other just by looks. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to jump right in and we're going to swirl a little bit. And swirling allows some gas exchange to happen at the surface. And when that gas exchange happens, you're adding oxygen into your wine, and that's releasing some esters, some thiols, some aromatics into the air, into your glass. So give it a little swirl and smell. And you don't have to taste yet. And then go to glass 2. Sniff, make sure you take a couple sniffs just to clear out your sense of smell. And then go to glass 2, go to the next wine. Swirl and smell. And we'll give you a little more time. I'm going through it quickly, but don't worry. We'll have plenty of time to go through these. And then you can go through glass 3 and swirl and smell. All right, and once you've smelled each glass, and you know, in theory, this would take a little while, and we will have a few more minutes in a second. But in theory, you'll smell each glass, and then you'll go back to glass 1, which is our Grenache, and you'll smell and taste. So smell again and taste. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to smell and taste each wine. And as we're doing that, after we do that, we'll all talk about the wines together. And we'll just talk about the growing season and, you know, what I'm getting on each of these wines, what you guys are getting. And then from there, we'll go into blending and what we look for in blending. So if you guys want to give these wines a good smell, and feel free, this is interactive, shout things out if you smell or taste anything in particular. You're welcome to make notes. I usually have my laptop here, and I take tons and tons of notes as we're tasting and write everything down. So you'll just go through and smell and taste. And this will end up being quite a few sips of wine by the end of it. So if you're prepared for that, great. But if not, there's no shame in spitting too.
Wow. They're all so different. I don't think I've ever.
I've got COVID.
You've got COVID. Oh, you can't tell the difference.
Oh my God, guys. So once we've smelled and tasted through all 3, we'll just go back and talk about them.
Actually, I think I've got COVID. I can't taste. Am I excused?
Yeah, you're excused. You can just drink, Mike. It's okay.
Sorry, Mike. You're done.
Okay.
Makes sense. So I'm sure everyone's still smelling and tasting, but let's just start talking about some of these wines. So let's start with the Grenache. Does anyone want to share what they are smelling or tasting? And your tasting note sheet does have cheat notes on it. So feel free to call those out if that is what you smell. Those are the things that I wrote at some point. So anybody want to share anything about wine number 1, the Grenache?
I got yeasty and bread.
Oh, nice. Yeah, totally.
Little bready.
I smell, it sort of smells like woody, like not a pine box, but a cigar box without cigars in it. That kind of wood smell. I smell that.
Yeah, a little bit cedary.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else? What about the texture of this wine? What do you feel on your palate? Well, I'll tell you what I feel. I feel like it's really, oh, go ahead. I heard somebody.
I think this one's very smooth.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this one is very smooth. It finishes really clean, not very tannic, not too lengthy of a finish either. You know, it's a little bit shorter. It's a very aromatic wine. You know, I'm getting lots of orange zest, lots of Bing cherry, lots of sandalwood and cedar, lots of baking spice notes. And then the palate does have a lot of character on the front palate, really pretty fruit, really delicate. But then it's sort of, you know, the mid palate and the finish are a little bit lighter, which again, you know, it's Grenache. That's totally fine for Grenache. That's what we want out of Grenache. But let's remember that. Let's remember that, you know, the mid palate and the finish are like a little bit shorter on this wine as we roll into number 2, because that'll become important later on. So number 2 is our Syrah, and this is our 2016 Syrah, I think. We'll talk about the vintages in a second. Any notes on this wine? I think this wine is a stark contrast to wine number 1 for sure. Anyone want to jump in there with their thoughts? And there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone has different palates. So everybody has a different tasting experience that they're bringing to the table. So every answer is the right answer.
I thought it smelled like buttered popcorn personally when I first smelled it.
That was my. And then you didn't get that, and then I said it, and then you were like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "That means."
I got a little more meaty flavor to it when I first tasted it.
But yeah, I don't know. The butter and salt of like movie popcorn is kind of what I got initially. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that movie theater butter.
yeah, not like butter. Yeah, no, the combination that you only get from movie popcorn is what I got.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they do differently, but it's definitely a different experience at the movie theater.
Not healthy, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I see we had somebody join us. So I'll let Robert introduce what we're doing, and then we'll jump back into talking about the Syrah real quick.
Hi there, welcome. You're on mute right now.
Yeah, I think we were stuck in the waiting room, wondering who was going to let us in.
Oh, it popped up on my screen. Welcome. I'm Robert, the estate director at Amista, Ashley, our winemaker, and Vicki and Mike Farrow, the proprietors of Amista.
Hi.
What we love to do is if you want to put where you're from in your name line, that would be wonderful. Because you never know who might be right next door to you. Perfect. Thank you. So Ashley has had us pour all three, the Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre, so that you can taste and smell and look at the clarity. And she's talking about the different components before we move into blending.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mike, go ahead.
We'll catch up.
We'll catch up. Keep going.
Okay.
Awesome. So we talked about wine number 1, which was the Grenache, and now we're on wine number 2, the Syrah. So is there anybody else who wants to jump in with what they're tasting in the Syrah? All right. Well, I am tasting.
Oh, actually, Karen's talking, but she's muted.
Oh.
There you go.
A lot of dark fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has like the dark. I said this a few days ago, and I think there was a lot of talk about it, but a lot of dark brooding fruit. Like very dark and earth toned fruit. I do get a little bit of like some dark like black raspberry, which I'm not sure is a real thing, but in this case it definitely tastes a little bit black raspberry and a little bit of like sort of smoked bacon character. Very like meaty, like Syrah was saying. Anybody else want to say anything? Mike, what did you think of it? Is Mike checked out?
I'm actually very flat. I mean, I get very little flavor tonight. I have a bit of a cold, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then I won't pick on you. So how about the palate? What do you guys notice on the palate of this wine, especially compared to the Grenache?
More astringent.
Heavier. What? Sorry?
Yeah, it sticks to your tongue more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
More astringent.
Full mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
Round and peppery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much more full, much more lingering, a lot more tannin, a little chewier for sure. Any other comments on this line? Okay, so let's remember that.
I'm really getting it all over in my mouth, and that finish is a really long chain.
Exactly. So now let's just compare and contrast this. We've only tasted one other component so far, but remember that in the Grenache, we got that really short finish. You know, the front palate was pretty full and fruity, but then there wasn't a lot after that on the mid palate or back palate. So just kind of be thinking in your mind how those two wines might play together and fill in some holes for each other as we go to wine number 3, and we'll see how wine number 3 fits in. So let's all, remember and taste and smell the Mourvedre. Ooh, that's tasting really good.
How often
I really like this wine.
do people do a lot of just single varietal Mourvedre? It doesn't seem like it's super common.
Yeah, I don't think it is super common. So Mourvedre is, like a winemaker would say it, is very one note. So it's very linear. Our Mourvedre actually has quite a bit of complexity, and obviously is really, really pretty. But some Mourvedre, it grown anywhere, all over the world, can be very just tannic, and it doesn't really have anything else going on. It's just really, really tannic. So it provides a good backbone for blends, but it's hard as a standalone varietal. But we pick a little bit earlier. We press off the skins a little bit earlier, and that allows more of the fruit to shine through rather than just those really thick skinned tannins, like skin tannins. So, our winemaking style is definitely complementary to pulling out some fruitiness out of this varietal.
Excellent.
A little bit of a lighter touch, I would say. Because this one's not we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to give it away, but this one is not like super tannic or anything at all. But what fruit flavors are you guys getting, or if any, or what flavors or aromatics are you getting on the front palate and on the nose?
So like red cherry, red plum, and then as it sets in your mouth for a little bit, then you go on to the more darker baked fruit kind of feel.
Exactly.
I think it smells like a wet redwood.
It totally does. It smells like a little bit of like a forest, like walking through a forest after a rainstorm.
All right, that's an awesome description.
Yeah.
We have a plum tree in our yard that is prolific, and when I get a barrel of plums and I'm waiting for her to make something with them, that's the scent I get out of the wine. It's like deep, dark red plums.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On a quick aside, so I said this the other day in a little tasting, but everybody comes with a different, basically, scent memory catalog. So everyone has smelled different things in their life and tasted different things. And so like what you've tasted in your life is completely different, than what I've tasted and smelled in my life. And that's what's so fun about these things, is bringing all of our history together and being able to pull out these things that I've never picked a barrel of plums. And that's awesome. Like, that's such a good descriptor. I love it.
We're bringing some your way next time, Ashley.
Yeah.
I have
I'm
plum
just gonna
jam
have you
today.
guys all write my tasting notes for me from now on. It's way easier. All right. So what are you guys getting on the palate? Length, finish, flavors? Anybody?
I thought that when I smelled it, it smelled like just the really, really, really faint kind of cinnamony or some sort of spicy like that. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I get too, for sure.
I even get a little bit of vanilla too, Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts pretty well, but not as much as the Syrah.
Medium finish, right?
I get a little bit of candied violets, that they put on cakes, like those sugared violets, or like on dessert sometimes. I get a little bit of that too, like that sort of barely floral, but like a little bit sugared smell from like baked goods.
Close to that. I thought it tasted like vanilla and butterscotch.
Yeah, it totally does.
I get a little bit caramel note at the top, a little.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about length of finish? How do you feel like palate weight wise? Is this wine a heavy wine like the Syrah was, or is it very light? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
This is a mid finish to me.
Yeah, medium.
Little, but not a ton.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. This is definitely like the middleweight wine. All right. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that part. This is one of the most crucial parts of blending. Sorry. So we have to taste the components. We have to know what we're blending is. Each of these wines is delicious on their own. It's sort of like cooking. You know, if you use a bad ingredient, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be a bad ingredient in a pot with everything else. So you need to have really amazing components to start with when you're blending wine. But, you know, single varietals are what they are. You know, they do come with some holes. If we're trying to make like, you know, a perfect wine, which maybe that doesn't exist, or maybe it does, I don't know. You know, a wine does tend to need some blending. And in France and many other places for generations, you know, wines have been blended. And that's a completely okay thing. So what we're looking for as we begin our blending is how can we fill in the holes and make these wines that have complementary, you know, flavors sort of layer together in a way that makes each one of them shine independently, but also makes a full wine better at the end. So let's keep all of that in mind. And this part's going to be fun. Does everyone have their graduated cylinder? So this is like our lifeline. This lives in my work bag every day. I use it every single day for a bazillion things. And this is what we're going to be using today. So I don't think I have the exact same one as you guys. I have a glass one. But it should have markings up to 100 in graduations of 10, but also in one. Was this one increment? Mine has one increment. Yours might have 2 increments. So just make sure you know where you're at.
We have 1.
You have 1? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So, and then you have a pipette. And again, my pipette looks a little bit different than yours. Mine is a little glass guy. You guys have a bulb. So I'm going to be mouth pipetting, which is, you know, not condoned during COVID times, but it's fine for me here in my house. And so this will be very useful. Yours does not have measurements on it, and that's okay. But what you can do is when you're trying to get to the line to know what percentage you're blending, that will help you get there without having to, you know, pour a little out, pour a little more in. So use that, you know, go a few mils shy, and then use that to sort of come all the way up. The other thing to know is, I don't know if anybody remembers this from like high school chemistry, but liquids have a meniscus. So when you're looking to blend and you're looking at the level, the wine will pull up the sides just slightly. So when you're looking at where your level is at, you look at the bottom of the little U shape, and you'll see it once you start pouring liquid. And that's called the meniscus. So we go from the bottom of the meniscus when we're blending. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna dump out my 3 glasses. You can
Me too.
throw them back, whatever you want to do.
Robert, do you want me to bring this over?
I have children that.
No.
I think I'm the only one that uses the spit cup during our meetings usually.
I know.
Okay. So if you guys have been keeping notes, or you don't have to keep notes and you can just go for it, but here's what we'll do. I'm gonna go from 100 scale. So that means that everything will be in very easy percentages. If you're gonna wanna try a zillion different blends, you could go on a 50 scale, but remember that then everything will be, you know, need to be doubled to get to your percentages. But on 100 scale, so if I do 40 mils of one thing, and then, you know, 30 and 30, then that's 40%, 30%, 30% of those wines. And we're each going to come up with something different. So I want to take a few minutes. I'm not going to tell you what I've done on our trace. I want to take a few minutes, and I want you guys to play around. And you have 3 glasses in front of you, hopefully. Make 3 different blends. That's what this is about. You know, make 3 different blends and try them. do you want to have a 50% Grenache with 25 and 25 Syrah and Mourvedre? Or did you really think the Syrah had a lot to offer? You know, do you want to do a 75% Syrah and 25% Mourvedre and just leave that Grenache out entirely? Or anything. You have literally the sky's the limit with these 3 varietals. So let's take a minute, make up some blends, and then I'd like everyone to sort of talk about, you know, what they were instantly thinking. And remember, there is like literally no right or wrong answer to this in any way, shape, or form. So just have fun and let's start pouring some wines into that graduated cylinder. And it's going to be a little messy. I would recommend a towel.
What's so great about it is that everybody's palate is different. So some people may prefer a little more texture to their wines. So you may want to be a little higher in Syrah. Some may want to be a little, I say a little more feminine in style, where you really like those lighter characteristics, like the Grenache.
That's a great point. Yeah, everyone's not going to be making the wine with the same goal in mind. So that's a really, really great point.
Did 20? I did 30. I did 30.
Amber, you need to send me those pictures.
I did 30.
And if anybody wants to talk through anything, we're happy to listen as to what you're blending.
Questions are...
If I talk, I might spill.
Oh, that's true. Also, I wanted to note that, so, you know, obviously all winemakers love making wine. We love harvest. There's so many good parts of our job, but blending is so fun. Just so you know, it's so fun. This is like where winemakers get to be, you know, because we're all like, not all of us, but a lot of us are like natural winemakers. We want to let the terroir shine. We want to let the varietal shine. And so you really just respect the fruit. And blending is where you get to be like, no, this is mine. This is how I want this wine. So blending is very, very fun. And hopefully you guys are having fun thinking of what you want in your wines.
So
Robert, do you have your graduated cylinder? I would have brought you an extra. I have more.
Creating another blend.
Well,
That's the one bummer, but I should probably take a plastic one because I do break these sometimes.
Okay.
No, this was so successful that all of the supplies went.
60.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. So.
Vicky, how are you doing over there?
Yeah.
You're the chemist today.
I'm having trouble. I made a perfect meniscus. Just so you know.
Vicky was never big on chemistry.
No, actually, I had to get tutored.
By Mike?
I got a D in chemistry. And that was with tutoring.
I think that's always why she married me, because she knew I was good in chemistry.
That's so funny.
When you say meniscus, I think about the thing that's in your knee.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what my husband just said. And usually it's torn.
Right.
But same shape. It's the same shape.
So I want to say hi to Allison and Amber in Chicago, which is where John and I met.
So now,
I don't know if they're listening, but.
What was that?
Oh, they're still muted. I think they hear you.
Okay, cool.
Is it us? The Amish folk. Hey, Lancaster.
Amber and Allison, they're talking to you.
We're naming our glasses
Sorry.
because we did.
I was just saying hello to you because John and I actually met in Chicago.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
And I went to school in Atherton, Menlo.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we're right next door.
Yep.
Well, I love my blends. Come try it. I did equal, all three.
Oh.
I did 50, 25, 20, 50 Grenache, 25, 25. I love it. Uh-oh.
Oh, what'd you do?
Hold on. I put it to sleep.
They're in order.
Oh, you're still there. We see you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Be careful what you say.
Let's do
Are you
it.
done with that one?
Yeah.
So once everybody's got a little blend in their glass or a couple blends and they've tasted it, I'd love to hear, you know, where everyone went with it and what they think.
Oh,
And then once you have a winner, you know, we can. What?
What do we do? We did 70 Syrah, 15 Grenache, and 15 of the other one. And it's very good. It's smooth, it's spicy.
Oh, I like that.
It's round. Are you guys hiring?
You can definitely come out here and blend with me anytime.
Vicky's going back and learning again. You write your stuff down when you do it. You don't do it later. You don't try to remember. You write it down when you do it. Now do another.
Shut up and taste.
So you're all welcome to come out when we actually pick the grapes too.
So we did an equal
Yeah,
blend
that is quite
our
fun.
first one. And it's really nice. It's just like a crowd pleaser.
When are you picking the grapes?
Yes, when is that?
Yeah.
It all depends.
September.
August, September.
We had two
Yeah.
that were heavy Grenache.
So
Very
if you
good.
guys, if you come out during that time, we'll probably be picking something. And we've had wine club members come out and help harvest, and it's quite fun. Especially if, you know, everything opens up a little bit more. It's a really fun time, and we would love to have you.
That's noted on the calendar. That sounds awesome.
Perfect.
It is an exciting
It's been
time
a
of the
while,
year.
Sarah. I feel like we're due for a visit.
Actually, yes, maybe in a couple weeks.
What?
Oh, really?
Yes, for real. Like what, maybe the middle of second week in March?
If you guys are open.
You're open, right? Yeah.
We're open.
We'll be there at the end of
Oh my
March.
gosh. Well, you'll have to email us and let us know.
Yeah, we will.
Yay! So exciting. Oh, that'll be a good time. We might be just hitting bud break at that time. So it's really pretty right now. There's so much mustard blooming. It's been like 80 all week. It's very nice here.
It's been crazy.
What?
Yeah, we had.
It's been like 8 degrees.
It was like 45
Yeah.
and sunny today. We were pretty pumped about that.
Like
so.
in shorts.
Yeah. My husband
Oh
played
my
golf in
God.
shorts yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting the same weather we are.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
probably
it's like
10 degrees less than you, Robert.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
wearing
beach
short sleeve
weather
shirts.
almost
It's that
here.
warm.
I only put on a sweater because I was wearing a white shirt and everything behind me looked white too. So I was wearing a short sleeve shirt too.
That's what we have booked right now. 11th to 16th, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know when you want to come by and we'll be ready for you. It'll be exciting.
Okay, so you like this
All
one?
right.
I mean, I do
So I
like
think
it. I don't know
everyone's
how it
had a
compares to the
little
other ones. The heavy Movado.
Let's go through and talk about our blends. Sarah and James, do you guys want to start?
Sure. So we did 3. And we did yours. You want to say yours first?
Well, yeah, the first one I kind of arbitrarily poured, you know, heavy Grenache. I didn't really pay too close attention to the percentage, and then I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's 56, and then kind of filled in up to 100.
So it was what, 56 Grenache, 26% Syrah, and 16
Yeah,
Mourvedre?
not real precise numbers there.
But tasty.
Yeah.
And then I did a Mourvedre heavy one because this is the first time I've had that wine from you guys because it just came out, right? Like late last year?
Yes, it did.
So I did 51% Mourvedre, 39 Grenache, and 10% Syrah. and it's a little heavy. I don't like it as much as his.
Oh, you like the one I made?
Okay.
I do.
That's good to know.
Nice work, James.
Interesting.
Yeah, I totally planned that. I didn't just randomly pour.
Mhm.
Okay, who else? Dorothy, how did you do?
Okay, I made 3 different ones with different, and I only did 50, so it wouldn't be giant glasses. So. But I think, gosh, I don't even know which one I like the best. I haven't gone through them all yet, but I did the one with the most Grenache, 20, 10, and 20 to make 50. It has that Grenache smell, but it's stronger and more astringent because of the Syrah, which I like it. And but it's funny because it only has 10% of the Syrah, but it really has a lot of the feel of the Syrah, I think. Or not 10%, but whatever. I guess 20%.
20%, yeah.
The last one I did was 60% Mourvedre and 20 and 20 of the others. Let me see. They're all good. I don't know. Yeah, that one's good, but it's definitely different.
That's one of the things about the blending percentages that always surprises me when you hear a winemaker say, well, yeah, we tried 2% of, I don't know, Alicante Boucher and then 4%. And we ended up, but we decided 3% was best. And that always, because my palate is refined.
That's a really great point. So I think something we've learned, as you guys know, like sometimes the components taste really great on their own. And then in a blend, you're like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Or you can make these really incremental adds. And on a bench scale, that feels really minimal. But when you're doing things on a little bit bigger scale, you're making 1,000-gallon blend, that's a little bit, it feels a little more substantial when you're adding, 1 or 2 or 3%. And those things do make a difference. And the other thing that I want to mention is that wine is alive. Wine is living and breathing, and gas exchanges happening. There are so many compounds in a wine. And when you put them together, they do interact differently. And it's true of basically anything. So anything from tartrate, which is acidity level, that can react differently from when you put 2 wines together. Stability, like microbial or, heat or cold stability can change. All the esters, all the aromatics, those can change. And then tannins. Tannin chains can be little and short, or they can combine and be longer and smoother. So there's so many things that can happen when you put wines together. It's not apples to apples. It's not like you blend them and you're like, boop, it has this much of this and this much of this. That's not how it works. And that's the craziest thing about blending, especially in your mind's eye when you're like, oh, okay, this is going to go so well together, and then it doesn't. And that's why, because every wine is a little bit, carries some different things in it, and it doesn't always react in the same way as the wine you're blending it with. So let's keep going. Who wants to talk about their wines next? Kim and John?
Go ahead.
Sure. So we did one that was equal parts of all 3, just because we wanted to see. We did one that had, what is that? It's like 60% Syrah.
And then 20 each, the other
20
2.
each of the other 2. And then we did, actually, what did we do?
60%
60%
Mourvedre and 20 of each of the other 2.
So it's kind of interesting. The equal blends of each, we just said, okay, that's just a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I would serve this like in the summer, slightly chilled, right, at a backyard, barbecue with friends, and everybody would love it.
Everybody would drink it, right? The Syrah forward, the 60% Syrah, I think the Syrah kind of dominated the other grapes a little bit. And you got a little bit of the Mourvedre, but I kind of lost the Grenache completely in that one. But actually, our favorite of the 3 blends was the 60% Mourvedre. I'm a self-professed Mourvedre fan, so I love the fruit and then the structure of the Syrah that adds to it. It kind of lengthens the finish for me. And you still get a little bit of the note of the Grenache in the nose, but that was both of our favorite ones.
Would you say again the percentages on that one?
60% Mourvedre, and then 20% each of Syrah and Grenache.
Got it. Got it.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think basically I was sitting there listening to you guys talk, and I was thinking, oh, I feel like all of these people could be winemakers now. Like, you guys all sound so professional, and how you're talking about your blends. I'm like, you're all hired, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, I like.
All right, was there a comment?
Yeah, I like that weird nose on the Grenache. I like that sandalwood or whatever. I like that. And the only one that retained that was the one that had 40%. When I went lower than that, you lose that in the nose. So I kind of like that though.
So I decided to make a dose.
A dose?
Dose.
Yeah, I have always wanted to try to make a dose instead of a trace. And what did we do? I did 60% Mourvedre and 40% Syrah. And we really like it. It obviously doesn't have that bright, Grenache kind of aroma, but did you like it, Mike?
Yeah, for all I can taste.
And he said that was the only one he could taste, so.
That's a really good sign.
Number
Vicky's
3.
hired. New winemaker.
Our number 3, we did the other way, 60% Grenache and 40% Mourvedre. Is that the other way? Yeah.
You did it too.
No, Syrah and Grenache.
Yeah, we did all of them.
And it tastes about the same. The Syrah is really dominant.
Yeah, the Syrah does come in a little
Syrah.
strong.
Yeah, it's big.
I like the dose. I feel like next year we're gonna come out with a dose, and we're gonna have Vicky to hold responsible for that one.
We have a photo and a trace.
Yeah.
Now we need a dose.
Quattro.
Okay, how about Allison and Amber? What did you guys come up with?
Oh, geez.
Oh, we lost them.
Oh, I
they're
was like,
back.
gosh. Oh, there we go.
I did 50 Grenache, 25 Syrah, 25 Mourvedre. And I can't decide whose I like better between the two of ours.
I did equal parts. I did equal parts, and in the beginning, my favorite was the Grenache until I did equal parts of everything. Then that was my favorite.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, awesome. And how about the Pennsylvania people? I can't read the first name. My screen is a little far away from me, so you guys could see my glasses. So. Megan, I think.
Yep.
How was yours?
No, she said Megan, didn't she? So we did, for our first one, we did 70% Syrah, and then we did 15 Grenache, 15 Mourvedre. My personal favorite. Was it your favorite? Yeah, so far it's been my favorite. But yes, the Syrah definitely is like, takes the lead there. We love the Syrah. It's very delicious. For number 2, we did 70% Mourvedre, and then 15 Syrah, 15 Grenache. My husband liked that one. He likes the oaky, tobacco-y flavors in the Mourvedre. And for our last one, we just did half Syrah, half Grenache. It's very good. And it's very good. It's nice. It's all nice. It's all good.
So that's our dose.
We have 2 doses.
Yeah. 2 doses. All right. And how
So was that a dosey-do?
Dosey-do.
Dosey-do, yeah.
They are in Lancaster, so. or Lancaster. Yes, to pronounce it right.
You got it. It's Lancaster, not Lancaster.
No, right. Lancaster is because our sales guy for that region lives in Lancaster, and he calls it the center of the universe. So
Wow,
that's about right.
that's very generous of him.
Very humble.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Anne, how was your blend?
We were a little bit on the boring side. So like our first one, which I call the porch pounder, would be like 50% Grenache and then 25 and 25. It's like your perfect day drinker in Sonoma. It's 95. You don't care. It's light. It's delicious. So we liked that one. The second one, we're trying to do like make each varietal kind of go forward. So we, start with 50% say of Syrah. Then we went 30% Grenache and 20% Mourvedre. Well, we liked that one. It was definitely meaty and tannic and fun. The third one we did was the 50% Mourvedre and then 25 and 25. It is just like an everyday drinker. It's awesome. The one that was more Syrah heavy, as I'm not quite a fan, is the meatier, chewier wines, as like my husband is. I thought the 50% was like awesome. And then like you, lastly, we decided to do a dose. So we went with the Syrah heavy and then did the last third as being the Grenache, which is also like really delightful. It brings that red fruit, again, the meatiness of the Syrah, but totally tempered by the Grenache, which is just delightful.
That's interesting. I'm surprised the Grenache still, was there.
Where else could
I
it
knew what
be?
to look for, so like it's not like I was tasting it, on its own, but it just something it just really tempered down the Syrah, I thought.
What was the percentage again? What was the percentage on that one again?
I think I just did like 2/3 Syrah and then 1/3 of the Grenache. But to me, like I said, you could have it with big, heavy meat stews and soups, but you could still have it on its own.
Yeah. Wow. Ashley, we should do this all the time.
Oh, I think we lost Karen, but I think she's next. She hasn't talked about her blends, right? Is she the last one?
She is.
I was going in order on my screen, but then somebody switched all around, so then my order shuffled.
There she is.
There
Mom,
she
you're
is.
ready. We'd
That's the
love to
future of
hear
Zoom,
about
by the
your
way.
blends.
Well, it's on you.
Somebody's experience.
I kept going so close to the middle, just variations of the third. But then I tried the 60% Mourvedre and 20% each of that, and I think that's I'm with John. I love the Mourvedre.
There are a
love
lot of
it.
fans of the Mourvedre. That it's really exciting that we have a standalone Mourvedre, and also the flavor components that come out in it and Ashley's style. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's more than just a backbone.
Definitely, yeah, it's definitely a major component. So now comes the fun part. I would like everyone to keep their favorite blend in their favorite glass, and then we get to pour the trace into it. And this is the 2018 trace, which was one of my favorite vintages that we've made of this. And let's taste them side by side. And this is a really common thing that we do in wineries. Like obviously you want each vintage to shine and you want your components to shine, but also how does it compare to the previous vintage, to the previous blend? And that's really important. So almost always when we're blending, we will compare to the previous year or previous couple years. So this is the fun part. You're like, how did I do? Did I make a better wine? Did I make a similar wine? And again, there's no right or wrong answer necessarily, but let's just see how it goes. And then I'll talk about, what I did for this blending. So I'll give everyone a second to get it poured.
So while we're pouring, do you ever do cross vintage trace? Because I notice it's always vintage, but like I noticed that we do have a 16 Syrah. So do you ever do that? Because I don't think I've ever seen it.
So mostly no. The answer is mostly no. However, occasionally I'll have like a barrel or something left over, and it will usually go into the trace. But that doesn't happen in a few vintages. I think 24 or 2015 or 16 was the last vintage that I threw in a back vintage. So the answer is not typically. But you know, we are allowed to add 15% of a different vintage in and still call it that same vintage. So even if you, I mean, for us, you know, we usually say if we've done that, but for, you know, wine tasting in general in California, we do have the ability to say up to 15% of a different vintage.
Okay. And that's California law, right? We don't have a consistent US law like they do, say, in France or something, right?
That's California law, but I will say that most other regions do take their cues from California, because California was sort of the predominant growing region in the US. So I know that like Finger Lakes and a few other areas have very similar rules. But yeah, but that's a California law. Some of our rules and regulations are US regulations. They're governed by the TTB.
Okay.
Yeah, the tobacco and alcohol and firearms or whatever those are. Yeah. But I think the 15% is a California rule. But most, like I said, most of the regions that I know of also have that rule as well. So
thank you for humoring my geeky lawyer question.
Anytime, always in for the geeky questions. All right, so what does everyone think of this wine? Let's taste our 2018 trace. So 2018, I'm going to talk a little bit about the vintage, was just the stellar vintage. We got a lot of rain in 2018 in the winter. We had sort of a delayed bud break. We got a lot of rains in the winter. We actually did have a bit of flooding in like mid-March of that year. Not here in Dry Creek, but in Sonoma County in general. And everything sort of pushed bud break out by about 2 weeks off of our, like what had been normal. Not that that's like completely normal because things have changed a lot in the last 15 years, but off of our like sort of new normal. And then we had this really beautiful growing season. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It was like Goldilocks, and you know, it was just perfect. And then in mid-August, we actually had this very rare thing happen where it got cooler here. Normally August is like, I don't know, like 115 sometimes here, but more typically like 90. And it got into like the 60s and 70s as a high. And that just doesn't happen. So that also delayed ripening, but it allowed for things to get phenolically ripe without dehydrating and accumulating sugar. So that allowed for even more hang time, even more flavor to develop on the vine without getting, you know, an accumulation of sugar, which in turn would be higher alcohol. So 2018 was a really beautiful, really flavorful vintage. It was, you'll hear a lot of people talk about how it was a very big crop that year. So we did have a huge crop, and in some places that can dilute flavors. But we did cut off a lot of fruit, kept our vines in balance for, you know, carbohydrate balance, and ended up with a really, really beautiful vintage. So that's what we're working with as we lead into the trace. And I will tell you, ours is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So yes, that makes it easy, but also like a couple people said that did the even percentages, it sort of helps each varietal to sing a little bit. And we did want sort of an easy drinking, you know, light. I call this our, you know, we don't say the like dirty words of Pinot Noir in here in Dry Creek, but it does sort of drink like that. You know, it's got some depth, it's got some character. It's so food friendly, but also it's a little bit light. You can put a chill on this. You can put it in the fridge for 20 or 30 minutes before you drink it. And you can have it on a hot day. And basically, and I think we've done the legwork on this, it pairs with pretty much everything, like everything. So that's what I've done on this wine. And yeah, you guys can tell me, maybe you like your blends better though, which is awesome if you do.
Well, like Kim said, she would serve it at a party and even put a little chill on it. And that's exactly what, it's kind of the crowd pleaser. It fits so many different palates, and there's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. 2015, we produced our trace with a little higher Mourvèdre than the other varietals. 2017 trace was higher in Syrah. So it's, each vintage is a little bit different because the varietals can throw different characteristics each year. And that's where Ashley's magic really comes to play, is that it's taking each of those different components each year, because they can be so different, and really creating an amazing blend. And I love the story about how Mike was such a purist, and he was like, we're not doing any blends. I want a Syrah, I want a Grenache. I don't want any blends at all. Well, then Ashley came. Ashley came.
Don't be so mean. Don't be
I was
And
like,
Ashley came along.
well, I like blending, so we're gonna do that.
You know what I'm thinking is when you're at a party and you inadvertently pour something into a glass and you're like, oh, I just made a Meritage and I didn't mean to. Now I'm thinking it might be okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, Sam. Now you can serve the trace, our regular trace, for your, just a crowd pleaser. But if you want to impress your guests, do a blend for them.
Yeah.
Do a special, it's like a cocktail, only it's a wine blend.
There you go.
I like that, Vicky.
I think you're all experts now.
Yeah.
When I first tasted trace, I told Ashley I thought it was a Pinot. And
You did.
I do not like Pinots. So you can tell that I've changed. Not to liking Pinots, but at least trace.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to come up with a blend? Like, I'm thinking, I don't know what the permutation is because I'm not good at math, but you could do this for a very long time. So how long does it take you to come up with what you want to actually produce, especially because you're working with unfinished wines, which seems infinitely harder?
Yeah, so it does take a long time. That's a great question. So, post-harvest, during harvest, I taste every day. During malolactic fermentation, when it first goes into barrel, post-primary, I taste every other week. And then after that, we sort of let the wines rest, and I taste every month. And all of those times, every single time I taste, I make notes on each and every single barrel. So I'm not tasting the wines as one lot. I'm tasting them as barrels, because that's something we didn't get into today. But when I'm blending, I'm not only blending lot to lot, I'm blending particular barrels. So that, makes the blending much bigger. So it's all of those tastings over the whole lifetime of the wine that lead you to the blending. And I actually usually do my blending in multiple sessions, because, maybe you just brushed your teeth, maybe, you had whatever breakfast. And so when you do them over multiple sessions, then you sort of dial in what you really liked. So I'll do some blends, and I'll find some that I like and sort of narrow it down. And then I'll repeat those and do them again. And then sometimes I go back and I'm like, why did I think that was good? That is not a good wine, So it's actually, I would say it's not a process that is like one time. It's happening slowly over the lifetime of the wines. But the actual sitting down with the graduated cylinder, happens multiple times. Sometimes it happens in the cellar. That's why I always have my graduated cylinder in my bag, where I'm like, oh, maybe this barrel and this barrel would go well together, or, whatever. But the sitting down big blending sessions usually happen over the course of like a few weeks, but like 3 or 4 big blending, like sit downs. and trying to narrow them down. And yeah, I mean, there are infinite possibilities, but I think something that I learned, so I used to run a custom crush facility. That means that multiple wineries made wine with me, and I just sort of managed them and made wine for the brand that owned the facility. And we had a winemaker there who I loved, and he would exhaustively blend. So he would try literally everything under the sun. And the hard thing about that is then you put a wine to bottle, and he never was sure that that was the best wine he could have made. And that was always so sad to me because, you know, his wines were good, and I felt like he sort of worked himself into this place where he's like, oh, but I could have tried that, and I could have tried that. And of course he could have, but I think you sort of lose the magic of like, it's sort of like with a canvas, you know, sometimes less is more as an artist. And I'm not comparing myself to an artist. I have zero artistic capability.
I think you are an artist.
But
you like,
yes, yes.
It's like that
Thank you.
song in
But you
Hamilton,
sort
he'll
of-
never be satisfied.
Yeah, you know, you can't sort of live your life like that. You know, that's an artist that has a very challenging time moving through their life, and a winemaker can be the same way. So I would say that I don't exhaustively blend. I do try to get to a really good product, but then once I feel like I really like it, I sort of leave it to rest, and I know that I've done like what I think is my best in that moment and for that vintage. And there's always next year.
Mm-hmm. And you don't try to make them consistent across the vintages, right? Because I believe you said that you feel like you're a steward of the grapes, right? And that you want to have like minimal interference. Is that right? So you're not trying to manipulate them.
Yeah, we don't need consistency across vintages. You know, there are brands and some grocery store brands that do need consistency. You know, they want their customers to know that every time they pick up a bottle off the shelf, that they're getting the exact same thing. And that's not what we are. You know, our wines are very vintage dependent. We don't add anything to our wines. We don't fuss with our wines except for this, you know. And so we really want each vintage to be different because no vintage is the same. I mean, 2018 to 2019, those couldn't have been more different of vintages. And so if the wines tasted the same, I would have a lot of questions, and you guys should have questions too. So yeah, so we're not blending for you know, keeping things the same. We're blending to make the wines the best that we think that they can be.
So I have a question. This particular one is, you know, 30, whatever, third, but what is the biggest percentage you've ever put with one of them? You know what I mean? What's the highest percentage you've ever had with just one?
Yeah, so I think one year we did 50% of them event, and that was the highest.
That was 2015.
Yeah, that was the 15.
Piggybacking off of that, I have a 17, 18, 19. So what is the difference between the three of those with regards to the percentages?
Oh, so the 17 I think had a little bit more Syrah in it.
Yep.
Okay. And then the 18 and 19 were both a third.
Okay.
Oh.
Does it say on the bottle?
No, it doesn't. I tried to cheat.
It doesn't. We're I think it says on the website though, Robert.
Yeah, you can look it up on the website.
Yeah, it says on the website.
Cool.
So there was something that Vicky said about a cocktail. So we are having our very first virtual tasting on the 5th with a female spirits maker, Sip Song Spirits, Tara Jasper. And Tara has created a French 75 cocktail with our Blanc de Blanc.
I love your Blanc de Blanc, and that is my favorite drink.
Oh my gosh.
Are you going to join us?
Sign me up. Sign me up.
God,
Well,
you've got to come. I'm so excited.
Because you're in California, we can still send to you, but we've already shipped everything. So if you would like to join us, I'll reach out to you tomorrow. And also, so it's Ashley and Tara are going to be together virtually making this cocktail. and it's going to be absolutely sensational. Tara created a cocktail for our sparkling holiday party in December, and Syrah and James weren't there, but we sent some things to them. But it was truly madly sparkling, and it was made with our sparkling Syrah, and there was a thyme simple syrup with her gin, and it was absolutely sensational. So we've asked Tara to take our sparkling wines and create a cocktail with her gins, and she's just about to come out with her spring gin, which will be, I think, amazing with our sparkling Grenache that, as you well know, is in limited supply. So keep your eyes on our virtual tasting page. The insert that came with your wines, the QR code, scan that. That'll take you to our virtual tasting page. We're adding, yep, exactly. That'll take you there. Keep your eyes peeled. I keep adding additional virtual tastings. We have food and wine pairings with our friend Beth from Nest Wellness. We have simple bites and bubbles. We have chips and dips with Amista wines, all kinds of exciting things, all amazing and engaging, just like today. Dorothy's been such a huge supporter of our virtual tasting series, and it's so great to see everybody's faces.
Karen's been on too, quite a bit.
And Sarah and James have been on too.
Karen has, Allison and Amber have, Anne's been on.
And Robert, you have been really a staunch supporter of all the tasting.
This has been so good. Seriously, this has been so good because we have been so sad that we did not get to come in 2020. And this has been such a nice way to still be connected. And you have been so clever and engaging with your tasting. So thank you so much. It's been there's not that much to look forward to in a pandemic. So thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
You know, it is. It's forced us to think differently about how we connect. And we've always thought about, how can we connect with our friends near and far? We just had one on Tuesday, which was the new release virtual tasting. So we got to taste through all the new releases that the people that are in the 3 times a year clubs, and again, great engagement, and it keeps us connected. And that's what we love about it. So thank you, everyone. We love you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We keep connecting with us.
Thanks,
and
well.
love to see you.
Have a cup of coffee.
I have a question. So for a couple,
Thanks, Ace.
I have a question for a couple of my boys who can't be here right now, but will be coming shortly, and we still have these open bottles. Can we watch this again? Do you have it recorded?
So it is recorded, but it'll be probably a couple of days before I can edit everything out and then send it. So it'll be probably early next week.
Okay. We'll just have to fill them in.
Use your notes, Dorothy. You can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it, Dorothy.
Dorothy is. You seem pretty good at this, Dorothy.
She is.
Thanks, everybody.
Give it a good try.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.